Hi everyone, I'm Bobby McGee. I'm the Advanced Physiotherapist here at St Anne's Hospice. Today I'm going to talk about the breathing, thinking and functioning approach. So this is information to help you to manage your stable long-term breathlessness. If your breathing is getting any worse or you're experiencing breathlessness as a new feeling, it is important to seek medical advice from your GP. So the breathing, thinking and functioning model is a way to help you manage the difficult symptom of breathlessness. We know that there are ways which this can help to reduce its impact on your life. Sometimes the way we try to manage breathlessness can actually worsen the feeling and the symptoms that you have. So it's really important to take that first step to understand how this breathlessness develops, and that understanding can then lead to finding new ways to help you with your breathing. So the breathing, thinking and functioning model is a way we can package the way we look at breathlessness. And we know that the sudden and distressing sense of breathlessness is something that's very useful when there's an immediate threat or we're in that fight or flight and we need to get away. But that threat to survival becomes less and less important and less useful sometimes in our day-to-day lives. So sometimes we can end up going into that fight or flight when we don't need to. However, some people who have chronic conditions that affect the heart or the lungs, and this coping behaviour is then less helpful and can cause development of emotions and behaviours that can make that breathlessness worse. So the control of breathing, as we know, is really, really complex, and there are many, many mechanisms which can cause us to feel breathless. So the feelings of breathlessness is created in many ways, and it's not actually fully understood. However, we know that breathlessness can impact on our thoughts, the way we breathe, and how we go about our daily activities. So we have highlighted these three areas: the breathing, the thinking, and the functioning. And in each of these areas, they have specific unhelpful emotions or behaviours that develop and lead us to think about these three linked vicious cycles that prolong and maybe even worsen the feeling of breathlessness. So in today's video, we're going to go and look through these cycles and make some suggestions that may well help. So this is our breathing, thinking and functioning model. Today I'm going to focus more about the breathing model. And we know that being breathless can often lead to the development of an inefficient breathing pattern. So we lose that normal breathing pattern that we would normally see. So we feel like we need to get more and more air. So we take these really big breaths. Sometimes we tend to hyperventilate or pant. And with all these really small breaths, we're not really breathing efficiently. So our breathing becomes harder work. We breathe into the upper part of our chest with these small breaths, and then we can sometimes get something called air trapping in the lungs, and that causes us to have like a pressure within our lungs, and this is that feeling of like hyperinflation. And when we start to breathe like this, the muscles that support our breathing, particularly around the neck and the shoulders, we tend to overuse them as we try to pull more and more air in. So this increases our effort of breathing and actually makes it less efficient. So with conditions like COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, there is not enough time for the lungs to empty. And that causes, again, this hyperinflation. So the next breath starts before the lungs are fully emptied. And this leads to lots and lots of problems. So this causes the breaths to kind of stack on top of each other. And this is really, really efficient. So it makes the chest overexpand and makes the breathing feel even more uncomfortable. And this leads to an increased effort in the need to breathe and makes our recovery longer. So there are things that we can do to help improve our breathing. These include breathing techniques, cooling the face with a fan or a cold flannel, and finding a comfortable position as well. So just a quick summary for the breathing side of things. So we want you all to try and be a little bit more aware of how you breathe, paying more attention to those inefficient breathing patterns, trying to make sure that you don't get that hyperinflation of your chest. So when you notice that your breathing is getting much faster and quicker, we need to just think about what we can do to get ourselves back down to that relaxed state, and that will really, really help us manage our breathlessness. I'm now going to talk a little bit more about some of the breathing techniques that we can use to help us with that process. So now I just want to talk about how breathing techniques can help us to ease our breathlessness. So just going back to basics, I just want to talk about the muscles that are involved in breathing. So the main muscle that we use is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a large flat sheet of muscle which covers the base of the rib cage. And as you breathe in, it moves down to help draw the air into our lungs, and then our tummy rises. But then when you breathe out, it relaxes, returning to its normal position. You get this kind of dome shape, and it allows your tummy to rest back in. So the diaphragm muscle is a really powerful muscle, and it doesn't really tire easily. So there are many muscles that we use around the neck, the upper chest and the shoulders, and they have the role of helping us to move our neck and our arms, and that's their normal function. But when we get breathless, we start to recruit these muscles to give us that additional support, and therefore these muscles are called the breathing accessory muscles. So it's normal to use these muscles for shorter periods of time when you're breathless, but they're not really meant to be used for long periods of time. And so they require lots and lots of energy and that effort, and they fatigue quite easily. So if we use them too much, they basically start to fatigue and they don't work as efficiently. So we've got muscles for inspiration and we've got muscles for expiration as well. And it's really, really important to make sure that we use the right muscles at the right time. So it's normal to use the accessory muscles when we're breathless, but just remember that it's important that we learn to switch them off as well. So once the breathlessness episode is passed, then we should be relaxing and we shouldn't really be recruiting those muscles again. So again, it comes back to that mindfulness. Try to focus on your breathing movements, on your tummy and your diaphragm as much as you can, and that will make sure that you're using your breathing accessory muscles and just keeping them in reserve. So relaxed tummy breathing is one of those techniques which you can use, which is really, really helpful just to try and get you to relax. It might be that you use this technique just while you're sat in a chair, and you can start to practice that feeling of getting that relaxation. Sometimes we call this technique breathing control as well. This technique is also really, really useful to use if you're having a panic-related breathlessness episode. And it's really, really simple to do. So if you just sit well supported in a chair, you could even be in bed, any position that you find is comfortable for you. You can also pop your hand onto your tummy if that helps, and then all you're trying to do is just try and have that relaxed breath in. We're not trying to do any sort of fast breathing at all. We're moving away from that fast upper chest breathing, and we're trying to take a nice slow breath in, either in through your nose or your mouth. And again, try to make your breathing as efficient as possible by focusing on breathing into your diaphragm with the upper chest relaxed. So with relaxed tummy breathing, we're trying to move away from that disorganized breathing pattern and trying to move towards this really smooth curvature that you see with the 3 R's of relaxed tummy breathing. So we've got the rise of the tummy as you breathe in. We've then got this relaxing phase as you breathe out. And again, that should be nice and slow and controlled. And then we've got this rest period where you're waiting for the next breath to come. And that's really, really important that you do that. Because again, as we mentioned previously, if you're not waiting for that breath to fully be expelled, this is when you can get into that dynamic hyperinflation pattern. So that's where you start to breathe very, very, very fast. And you're actually just taking more and more of those shallow breaths on top, and you're not clearing any of that kind of space and air throughout your lungs. And what that does is give us that feeling of fullness in the chest, and it actually makes that next breath in even more difficult to get in. Another really good technique we can use to try and help ourselves to slow our breathing rate down. So again, if you find yourself in the day, you might be getting panicky with your breathing, or you might find that even your respirator is just shot up a little bit. This is a really good technique to practice just to try and slow everything down again. So what I want you to try and do is try and slowly follow your eyes around the rectangle. And you can do this in conjunction with the relaxed tummy breathing that we've just talked through as well. So what I want you to do is find a rectangle, or use the rectangle that you've got in front of you. And just on the short side, I want your eyes to follow the short side of the rectangle as you breathe in. And then breathe out along the really long side that you see there. and then you just follow that again. So you're on the short side as you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, again, you're following your eyes across the long side. And then all I want you to do is just really, really slowly, just try and keep following that rectangle all the way around. And each time you go around, try and make it a little bit slower. And again, that will allow you to hopefully slowly reduce your rest rate and get you back down to a more relaxed state of breathing. If you're feeling breathless, you might find yourself going to an open door or even opening a window. And you might do that because you want that kind of quick blast of air and that cooling effect to the face, and that can make our breathing feel more comfortable. And that's where the handheld fan comes in. So we know that the handheld fan has quite a lot of evidence to allow our brains to actually switch off that fast rate of breathing and then slow everything down. So just by having a cooling effect of the fan on our cheeks and the nerves within the cheek and the pressure receptors within our nose, it can tell our brain to actually slow our breathing rate down, and that makes us feel more comfortable. So using a handheld fan is a quick and easy tool to have at hand, and we should try and have one with us if we know we're going to experience breathlessness. So how should I use a handheld fan? They're very easy to use. You want to always try and get yourself into a comfortable position that eases your breathlessness. Try and hold the fan approximately about 6 inches away from your face. Aim the draft of air towards your face and move the fan slowly from side to side so the draft covers your nose, mouth and the sides of your cheeks. You want to continue to do this until you feel that your breathing has eased. Now, currently, with the coronavirus pandemic, we are not allowing people to use the handheld fans within the hospice setting. And again, just be mindful if you were to have to use your fan, try and not to use it in a public space because there is that added risk of spreading infection. So the last thing I would like to talk to you about today is the 3 F's of recovery breathing. So this incorporates the use of the fan, the forward lean position, and then the focus on the long or relaxed breaths out. So we've talked about the use of the fan and the benefits of that. The forward lean position is a really good position to get yourself into if you're struggling with your breathing. It can help with the use of the accessory muscles. So as you lean forward, this might be onto your knees or onto a table or onto some pillows, whatever feels comfortable for you. So you're leaning forward, and then you've got the use of the fan in front of you, and then you're focusing on those long or relaxed breaths out. And that will allow you again just to slow your breathing rate down and make you feel more relaxed and more comfortable with your breathing. The next thing I want to talk about is pursed lip breathing. Now, some people find that breathing through a narrowed airway or through narrowed lips is actually a good way of making their breathing feel easier. Now, this can be helpful for people with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or people with emphysema. And what this technique does, it actually gives us the sense that we're able to splint open our airways, so it allows the passing of gas to leave the lungs more easily. When we do that, it then allows the next breath to come in more easily as well. So it's an important technique that, again, we can use to try and make our work of breathing feel less. So pursed lip breathing can be used in any activity, and you can also use this in conjunction with relaxed tummy breathing as well. You might want to try and use this when you're exerting yourself. So if you are carrying a heavy box, or if you are walking up and down the stairs, again, any position where you might find yourself exerting yourself more and you want to reduce your work of breathing down. So pursed lip breathing, again, it's a simple technique you can do. It slows down your breathing and makes you feel as if there's more air getting into your lungs. So just to demonstrate that technique, you can breathe in through your nose and hold your breath for a few seconds, and with your lips partially open, you just purse your lips close together, and again, and then you're breathing out slowly until most of the air is then released. Thank you for listening to today's video. I hope that's been really useful and given you some tips and practical ideas to use to help you manage your breathlessness. We do have other videos in this series which can help you to further understand and increase your learning about how to manage your breathlessness. So feel free to speak to a member of the rehabilitation team and they will signpost you to these videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.